I think a lot about the words that we choose for our songs. You know who you are and you don't owe them anything. That part of the message is for all of us to find a place of deep knowing, no matter your age, your background, whoever you are, to find a place of deep knowing that you are loved by the universe and by this community, by me, by people who don't even know you yet. You are so deeply loved for who you are. I mean that from the bottom of my soul. And so you don't owe them anything. The them, I like to be specific about what pronouns we're talking about here. The them is the people who might not trust and love you for who you are, who might be trying to take someone's rights, your rights, someone else's rights, and eventually, make no mistake, if folks are coming for someone's rights, eventually they're coming for your rights too. Or they're sleeping on their true job of meeting your needs, our needs, fixing our grid, feeding our people, having affordable housing, all of the things that our most extremist Christian nationalist politicians do to tamp down people that they see as the other, is taking their time and our hard-earned taxpayer dollars and energy away from the real work that all Texans need to thrive. So we don't owe them anything, but what we do owe is our ancestors. We do owe our earth. We do owe each other the work to see our values lived out for our fellow Texans and for each other in the public square. It is easy to be a little bit invisible when not everybody knows what we are and what UU is about. So one of the things that I do when I come to the congregations, my deep joy is to say to you, thank you. Thank you for being here in New Braunfels, Texas. Thank you for being out there in the community in the ways that you are, for the work that Chile and Peggy and so many of you have been doing for a long time, for the Durbins to be showing up and remembered as, founders and friends of this congregation. The work that you all are doing simply to have this place be and be so joyful and full of humor and creativity and children, it matters. It matters so much. And we have lost a couple of our UU congregations in Texas in just the 3 years that I've been leading this organization, because it's not easy to be a progressive, small congregation in a small town in Texas. I don't have to tell you that. You know that. But you're doing it. And so it's just such a joy to be here with you. I want to thank your minister, Reverend Ade Krabah, who is on the board of the Texas UU Justice Ministry, and just a gift to get to work with her. I also have to tell you, she bought me these shoes. Can you see these? These were a gift from Reverend Ade. She saw them on Etsy. People ask me about them all the time. Can you see them? She said, I'll just walk because I have this thing on. She said, I saw them. I'm coming. I saw them and it said quirky and colorful. So I thought of you, and listen to what she did, because this is a story for you. Listen to what she did. She reached out to my mother on Facebook, who is an activist in this work too. She does a lot with the Austin Sanctuary Network. She's part of TechSujum. And she asked my mom, what size shoes does Erin wear? My mom didn't know. So she texted my daughter, who's 15 and lives in the same house as me, and they found out. And now these shoes bring me so much joy constantly, and they bring other people joy. They ask all the time, and it makes me just think about what an incredible friend Reverend Ade is. And I share that story with you because we need those friendships in our justice work that are joyful, where you see each other and you know these shoes would not be for everyone. Not everyone. Andrew's not going to wear these shoes. But Reverend Ade knew that I would. And so I ask you to think about, in this very heavy season, my heart is broken for the Middle East, for Southeast United States. I was waiting in prayer all day yesterday to hear from my family in Asheville. And I join all of you in prayer as you continue to wait to hear from your folks, and as we rebuild 5 states of this country. There's so much that's heavy. And the joy and the beauty and the creativity that we can bring to each other, the seeing each other for who we are and loving each other, is what is going to sustain us as we do the really, really important work of justice in this world. I want to share with you a favorite quote. This book is called Holding Change, The Way of Emergent Strategy, Facilitation, and Mediation. It's by Adrienne Maree Brown. We joke a little bit that Mary Oliver is the patron poet of Unitarian Universalism. I would also like to nominate Adrienne Maree Brown as one of our sacred sources. She does incredible writing on keeping pleasure in activism. So here's a quote for you. And one of the kids gave me this sweet drawing as they went by, so I'm using it as my bookmark. Okay. It says, many of our movements are in desperate need of a movement. We can get caught up in meeting process as the sole container for how we work together, for how we practice democracy. It is the difference between understanding the meeting as one of the many tools for clarifying values, work, and roles, and the meeting as the work itself. There's a lot of process in Unitarian Universalism. This is a reminder to me all the time, because there's a lot of meetings at TechSouJum, that the meeting is not the work. And you have some amazing examples of that in this congregation. You have people who know and are out there in the community doing the work. So you don't need me as an expert. You have each other. But this season of the electoral work and then the legislative session that we are facing in January through May, we are going to need movement. And so I'm coming to you on purpose at this time, okay? It's almost October. We have a few weeks left till the election, and then we will be at the Capitol in the new year, and you are beautifully, beautifully positioned here in New Braunfels to be part of that. Some of our congregations, El Paso is 8 hours away? It is hard to ask our UU siblings in El Paso to come to the Capitol. So we will bring, those of us who are closest, we will bring the stories that our siblings from around the state and our partners who can't travel like some of us can, to testify in the hearings, to the rallies, to make sure that the progressive voices of our communities are heard. Immigrant voices are heard. Young people's voices are heard. And so you are one of the maybe half a dozen congregations that is close enough to make a really, really big difference. So I want you to know that today as we come into that season. For those of you who are not as familiar with the Texas UU Justice Ministry, Reverend Ade asked me to tell you a little bit about it. So I'm just going to get into a little bit of nuts and bolts here. So there are about 30 Unitarian Universalist state action networks around the country. We don't even have them in every state yet. It's a bit of an emerging power for us to collect ourselves as UUs. I don't know if you know this joke, but some of our congregations are like no sign on a dead-end street, shy. Physically, like it's hard to find us. And so we are just learning how to gather our resources together and be a force in the halls of power. Some of you have been doing it for a very long time, but some people are learning. And so we get together collectively to show up. You saw that yellow up there. We were the biggest group in that rotunda. And when they needed us to show up and drop cards, that's where you drop your opposition or your support of something, nobody came through like us. Our partners would ask us, like, can you come today? Because we need to testify. But so it's not just the legislature, though. Reverend Ade asked me to very warmly invite you, and I would have done this anyway, to our action hours. Action hour is great because it's on Zoom. Not everybody loves Zoom, and you can do it from anywhere. So on Zoom, every Thursday night, we have actions that we take together. It might be calling and writing letters in support of Annunciation House that was under attack from Governor Abbott recently. It might be sending emails to our school board to tell them that we don't want the 10 Commandments in every classroom, or untrained chaplains instead of school counselors. So we get on Zoom together 1 hour a week as a spiritual practice to take concrete action together from all over the state. That's Thursdays at 7 o'clock. We've added more this fall because we're doing also democracy editions. So text banking, phone banking, everything related to nonpartisan get out the vote. So who's being bombarded by texts and calls right now about the election? Yes. Okay. So here's what I want to reassure you. That's not what we're doing. There's enough people doing a partisan bombardment. The parties have that covered. As a spiritual nonprofit organization, our work is to do nonpartisan get out the vote work. That does not mean that I discourage you from the other partisan work you may be doing. I know a lot of you are very involved in that. But as people from the League of Women Voters know, and I know y'all are very involved with the League, we love the League. Parker Woodland just did a benefit show for the League in Austin last month. There is a place for that nonpartisan information because of a couple of reasons. Some people are very turned off by partisan rancor and rhetoric, and it makes them feel like their vote doesn't matter. The studies have shown that. So reaching out to people in a way that is simply about encouraging them and providing information to make sure they get to the polls, especially because there's so much almost like low-key voter suppression. There's the intense voter suppression that happens, but there's also that intimidation at the polls. There's that they change where your polling place is, or they change the rules, or they purge you from the rolls and you don't know. So we have a lot of information that we need to get to people in a way that they'll receive it. Secondly, as bombarded as we are, many of us Unitarian Universalists, because we're so engaged, a lot of us, the vast majority of Texans, they're not getting that message. They're not registered with a party. 14% of Texans voted in the last major election. 14%. So many people don't even know it's election day. And so our nonpartisan work is to reach those. I know, I see you with your hand, like, how can this be? I know, it's staggering. But so that's why I come here to you on Sunday mornings to tell you we need you so much. Whether it's making calls, whether it's text banking, whether it's door knocking. If you speak Spanish or another language other than English, you are especially needed in the canvassing and door knocking world. We need to reach people who speak other languages and are registered to vote. A lot of people have gotten registered to vote in the last few years. We've done great work on registering people. Here is our charge. We must get people there. It's not enough just to register. We have got to gather people, drive them, get them there. So I invite you to talk to the leaders in your own congregation. You have experts here. What are the things that are working in New Braunfels? What are the organizations that are driving voters to the polls, that are helping people who are homebound do their mail-in ballots? What are the local organizations that you all can get involved with and support? And then we, at the state level, provide postcards, the phone banks, all of that to support you in the state level effort. Okay, I'm gonna take a breath because that's a lot. Yeah, maybe one more, that felt good. That's another thing that we do in this organization is we trust how we feel, we trust our bodies, and we take a breath when we need to, because it's a lot. And it's not about one election, and it's not about one legislative session. It's the long, long arc of bending Texas toward justice together that I'm not gonna see the end of in my lifetime. But I want to do my part, take my shift in the work with you so that we hand to our next generation a world that is that much closer to the dream and the vision that we have. Now, in March, we will gather at the Capitol. I really, really will love to see you, and all of your UUs around Texas will love to see you if you can. If you can't travel, we'll also be sending you by email lots of ways to get involved, calling your reps about the issues that matter to us. I'm going to stay after the service back there, and I want to hear from you about what's mattering to you, what we can do to support you. One of the things I know is that truly this is one of the most engaged congregations in the community that we have, and so I want you to know that I'm also here to learn from you today. So I hope you'll talk to me in the back and share with me what you're doing, what support we can be at the state level. One of the things we can do with these action hours is if you say to me, the new Braunfels City Council is doing this thing, and we want to tell them no, or we want to tell them yes, please do that. We can have all of your UUs around the state support you, and we can call with you. We can write letters to the editor with you. I can write a letter to the editor with you as the state minister who speaks on these issues with 5,000 UUs behind us. So we want to support what you want to see happen here. All right, one of the things that we did recently was we had a guest speaker called Steve Phillips. He's a New York Times bestseller, and his book is How We Win the Civil War. And it really talks about the divisions we're facing in our country as an extension of the Civil War that was never quite healed or won or completely resolved, reconstructed. It's a really good book. And he has really practical and hopeful advice. And if you would like to see that talk that we did with Steve, it's on the TXUUJM YouTube. I recommend going to check it out. We all left that talk feeling really hopeful. But there's a quote in his book because he does a whole chapter on Texas. There's no other state in this book that gets a chapter. Texas is important to the project of democracy, and therefore so are we. So in the chapter it says, it's titled Texas, the task at hand is epic. And that is true. And he's quoting Crystal Zermenyo, the director of electoral strategy for Texas Organizing Project, who is one of the Texas Youth Justice Ministry's partners. Crystal says this: let's not be coy with this. When Texas changes, the whole electoral map resets. This is the last stronghold of power for conservatism, and if it goes, they would have to rewrite the whole playbook, the whole everything. So they are going to have to hold on and push back as hard as they can in the state of Texas. That is what is happening. We are experiencing the last gasp of extremism. I pray. I don't know how long that last gasp is going to last, but it's up to us to see that our values are represented and that we tell our elected officials that really and truly the people of Texas want to be taken, our needs, our basic needs to be taken care of and not to be focused on taking rights of other people. And so that's our work. That's what we're doing at TexUJM, and I'm so thankful to you all for being a member congregation. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for always being a source of joy whenever I get to be here or see any of you out in the world. And I'll just leave you with the fact that I believe you have experts and very wise people among you, and I look forward to visiting with you after. And as Dorothy Day said, no one has the right to sit down and do nothing. We can sit, but let's sit and make phone calls. Let's sit and write letters to the editor. Let's sit and think about our friends and what joyful things we can do to support them in this challenging time we live in. So much appreciation for you and the UUs.